Welcome to In the Know. Have Mason on. Mason is back. Today's topic is going to be what a post Zion world might look like if trade goes down. So let's get to it. What's up, Mason? We've had a lot of news regarding this trade situation. Trey Murphy has tweeted out, "Make it stop," in a meme format. It's great. I think each passing day we get more and more stuff, and today there seems to be a lot of converging on Zion, and I think the thing that um, makes me, I guess gives me pause, or I guess makes me pay attention more, puts me on high alert, is when Windhorst starts talking about these things, and when Windhorst starts talking about these things, typically he is on it before everyone else. So I just wanted to do a little segment on what it might look like if Zion was traded as part of a Scoot Henderson deal. I think today, one thing I touched on about was the potential PR fallout. Um, I claimed that in the event of a trade, the situation would get really messy really quickly. You would have leaks from both sides. The Pelicans trying to just talk about how Zion didn't do this, Zion didn't do that, didn't take care of himself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Justifying the reasons for the trade, and then you would see stuff from Zion's side about the ridiculous things that the Pelicans may or may not have done. So, Mason, I wanted to get your thoughts on the PR battle. Do you agree that it's potentially just a lose-lose situation on that front?
Yes. I don't. I guess I wonder why it needs to get messy. I mean, for all the battling back and forth behind the scenes. I mean, the Pelicans gave Zion a max contract for 5 years, albeit the injury protections. I don't know if you'll get to see things get messy about the weight and BMI clauses in there or anything like that. But I don't know. I just it would be disappointing to me. I'm not saying it's unrealistic because it's not, but it would be disappointing to me to see that happen in that form. I just I don't want to see Zion traded, but if it happens, I would. This doesn't feel like an Anthony Davis situation to me. Like I'm going to root for Zion. I'm going to hope he does well, and I just would really prefer it not to get dirty. Look, maybe there are things we don't know even now about things that what's going on with Zion behind the scenes that maybe make me change my mind here. But I don't know. I just would like this to be if it happens, which again I'm not pulling for. I would like it to stay as clean as possible.
Yeah, I think what would trigger some of this leaking is just the national talk and the national backlash, because I do believe at the forefront of this would be the discussion of how New Orleans has now fumbled two number one overall picks. David Griffin will have missed on two number one overall picks, his being Anthony Bennett. And just the inability of this city, this team, this franchise to retain players of that caliber. And I think, national talking heads are always looking for an excuse to bring that up. And while you and I and a large portion of the fan base may understand that a lot of that's just nonsense and completely devoid of context, I don't think it's going to prevent people from talking about Kendrick Perkins is already, championing the cause to get Zion out of here. He has been, for the longest time. He wants to relocate the team. So I do expect those talks to prop up, and then in retaliation to kind of save face some stuff to come out. But moving on from the PR aspect of it, just team building wise, just to get your brief thoughts. Would there be a caliber of return you'd be satisfied with if a trade were to happen?
Yeah, I mean there has to be some some offer that makes sense. Just given Zion's lack of availability. I mean, if he was healthy, we wouldn't be having this conversation. He's shown how good he can be when he is healthy, and I think it involves Scoot. It involves. I think we both agree Mark Williams is a nice secondary asset. I would like to see picks in addition to that. I think betting on a team that has been similarly unsuccessful as New Orleans and Charlotte to fail is a fair bet. And so I'd like to see some, a couple unprotected picks there too. I think Charlotte would laugh at that maybe because of Zion's, again, lack of availability. But I would ask for a lot. Zion is that guy when he's healthy, and when in a market like New Orleans, you don't just get that guy. And so I realize he hasn't been available. I realize he's been hurt. But I think that's just the dice you have to roll in the market like New Orleans. So I'd be asking for a lot, and maybe outside of what Charlotte is willing to give.
Yeah, fair enough. And I assume there's a similar ask if the deal does get pushed to Portland. It's just in some future where Charlotte's just like, whatever, we want Brandon Miller, we're gonna take him at 2. Pick number 3 is at Portland. I'm assuming you're asking for Shaden Sharp.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm still skeptical it gets there. Maybe in like a 3-team fashion, but just the stars would really have to align to make that to make Portland the team you're trading with. But yeah, I mean, Shaden and Scoot, and yeah. I mean, I'm willing to take back contracts, as long as you're maximizing the asset return, right? I mean, you're kind of alleviating certain salary problems, but I think by nature, if you're trading Zion, you are to an extent hitting pause a little bit, and you have to view it as such. And I just want to maximize the return. If I have to take a bad contract to do that, then so be it.
I think I got a lot of heat for this, but I said if you are moving Zion.
You never get heat.
Certainly, people don't wish that I fall victim to gun violence. Anyways, if you are trading Zion and getting back a guy like Shaden Sharp as part of that, and obviously drafting Scoot Henderson, I suggested that I would be okay with them just maybe not this year, but sooner rather than later, moving on from Brandon Ingram and just committing to what I would say an OKC styled build. Obviously, that's not going to go well with the fans, but OKC, they moved off Paul George and Russell Westbrook in one summer, and they did so very successfully. And in return, obviously they got Chris Paul, they got a bunch of future picks, they got a bunch of future picks from the Clippers, and they've slowly been building with that young core. And I think there are worse things in this world than to be building around Scoot Henderson, Trey Murphy, and whoever you get out of Shaden Sharp and Mark Williams, and just having that treasure trove of assets and doing it, quote unquote, right this time, in my opinion, instead of trying to thread the needle like they did with Zion. I don't believe the team has an appetite for this. That's just my personal opinion. I do think they'll try to make it work with Brandon.
Yeah, and that's why I struggle so much with the idea of trading Zion. If you're going to trade one of Zion or BI for this pick, if we're assuming that's going to happen, that's why it's just, if you do that and you trade Zion, you're staring down the clock of Brandon Ingram's extension, which you've talked about in detail, and that scares me. If you say you commit to Brandon, he's going to know that, and he's going to have you over a barrel when next time his extension comes. I mean, he's not going to give you a discount. He's not going to take in money early. He's going to want as much money as you can get. And is that something you're comfortable willing to do as the Pelicans to a guy he was entering his prime in that next contract, but it's going to be a very expensive contract, and can he really be the best player on a team that's going to make noise? And given the age gap between him and Scoot and the timelines, I mean, you have to make some tough decisions quickly. And so I just wonder how the next couple of years would play out if that's the first domino to fall. So a lot more tough decisions would be ahead.
Friend of the show, Jeremy Wilson, suggested that if he was Brandon and Brandon's agent at that point, he's asking for a 1+1 type extension that gets him to the 10 years of service, that gets him a 35% max contract in the new cap environment. And I do think that is something you could potentially be staring down the barrel of. Obviously, If the Pelicans feel confident that they're going to sign him to a 5-year extension next summer, or even an extension this summer, which I think would be extremely likely, but unlikely. But the next year one seems more plausible. It's a different story, but there's no guarantee in this. And I think you do carry that risk. The idea that I want to quell right now is Ingram is some extremely loyal player to the city and to this franchise, and I believe he and Zion are both just individuals who happen to work in New Orleans and they are doing their job as professionals. Now, you may question their level of professionalism for one reason or another, but as far as their commitment to New Orleans goes, they are here because they are getting paid. And I think if they continue to get paid, in the fashion they have been, they would love that. But obviously, I think they would love if they got paid elsewhere too. So
It's Drew
that is
Holiday
where I'm at.
too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
Drew Holiday all over again, right? Like, I mean, we love Drew Holiday. He was committed to the city. Him and Lauren and him did so many great things for the city. The Pelicans, the contract the Pelicans gave Drew at the time, people were, criticizing the Pelicans for how much money they gave Drew Holiday. And so, yeah, it's about the money. It doesn't mean the players can't do great things in the city or for the city, but it's a job.
And
it's
Drew
about the
Holiday
money.
ended up requesting a trade, and we all know how that turned out. So yeah, I think there's a lot of questions to answer. I do believe that we're going to get a lot more clarity, probably starting tomorrow as we start approach the final hours of the draft. Certainly seems like the rumors are converging on Zion at the moment. There's a ton of smoke there. I do think the conspiracy theorist in me wonders, could that be smoke for something else? There seems to be a great deal of intentionality behind his name being out there. Could that be for a reason? I suppose we're gonna find out. But thanks for listening, y'all.